This is the BroZilla podcast, episode 2. In this episode, we will cover Godzilla Raids Again from 1955 and its American counterpart, Gigantis the Fire Monster. Hello, everyone. This is Chris from SonOfSeebo, and welcome to the BroZilla podcast. Now, I am joined by CreationZilla, and
hello, everybody.
I'm also joined by Tyrant Gojira.
Yo.
And one thing I wanted to go ahead and get off the bat, I wanted to bring up to you too, is have you ever realized how much bad taste is in the Godzilla community? No. Listen, I know you're like, okay, what are you talking about? But listen. A couple months back, the first Godzilla Singular Point trailer came out, and we got the best design I've ever seen in Godzilla history in the revamped Jet Jaguar. And yet these people had the gall to complain. And I'm just sitting here like, why? I know that's maybe y'all guys don't share the enthusiasm I have for Jet Jaguar, but and you know what? I was never a Jet Jaguar fan until now, and so I just wanted to start us off by paying tribute to him.
Honestly, I would completely agree. I was never really Camp Jet Jaguar. I always kind of thought he was the cheesy Ultraman ripoff that didn't really look like a robot. And even with the first trailer, even before he got the longer legs and stuff, I loved the quirkiness of the Singular Point Jet Jaguar reveal.
Yeah, I mean, you can't tell me that you weren't like one of the most hype moments in the most recent trailer too was just Jet Jaguar. I don't know if he had like a backpack on, but he had like a full full rifle or some mechanical gun, and he's like sliding across. Like he had wheels for legs, and then he's coming across Anguirus, and at that moment, I was like, okay, this anime is on my hype list.
Yeah, then later in the trailer, he gets that spear and he goes all freaking Attack on Titan on those Kumonga, Megalon, whatever those are going to be.
Yeah.
Kumegalon.
Megalon.
Yeah, you heard it here, folks. But either way, that's, everybody knows that Jet Jaguar is the ultimate design. However, one thing that, a little bit on a more serious subject I want to bring up is, recently, I don't know if I want to use the term under attack, but Godzilla vs. Kong has been getting a little bit of pushback from a particular community. And I don't want to make a huge deal about this, but ever since a particular movie came out, Zack Snyder's Justice League, there's been even before then, we'll go back. Godzilla vs. Kong, the trailer was dropped, I believe, if it was on the same day as the Snyder trailer. And there's this conspiracy theory going around that, I guess Godzilla vs. Kong, Warner Bros. Hates Snyder, so they wanted Godzilla vs. Kong to take away all the talk about the Snyderverse, which, I mean, I don't know. That's already we're talking about ridiculousness here.
It's silly.
Yeah, it's like, why would they want to curb one of their own properties, one of the few things that's making them money right now? But then we move on further, and finally the movie drops. Okay, everybody loves it. I have not seen it. I have not seen a DC film in a while, to be honest, so I don't want to watch it.
I can vouch for the film's quality. It is damn good. it's like I was originally cautious because of how, Batman versus Superman turned out, but thankfully this was a huge step up.
I would definitely agree. I was very impressed with how the Snyder Cut turned out. Aside from, I think the aspect ratio was kind of dumb. I get that it was his creative vision. That's all I'll say about that. Aside from that, I was blown away because I was not a fan of the original Justice League movie.
Yeah, so, and that's the general thing I've heard. And you know what? I believe it. I believe, like, y'all both vouch for it. I've heard plenty of good things. However, when you give these people what they want, there's only one thing that they can do. You would think it would be, okay, well, we're going to be gracious that we got... This has never happened before, or almost, like, that I can think of, where they... Basically, 4 years later, they remade a movie that came out pretty bad, and they remade it into a pretty great movie. Like, they let the director change everything and put it in his vision. The movie released at 4 hours and 2 minutes. Never heard of something like that before. Like, this is such a strange moment and such a great opportunity for Snyder and for his fans. Yet instead, they're not satisfied with that. They have to start tearing down Godzilla vs. Kong. Now, I don't know how much of y'all have seen, but I've seen on the Nation Facebook page, Rob from Entertainment Talk Nation, it's his Facebook group, a lot of people document some of the crazy Snyder encounters they have to the I would say it's to the likes of like Sasquatch seeing or like the Mothman seeing such a horrific tragedy, but these are a lot more common. In fact, if you go to any Godzilla vs. Kong Facebook post or something like that, you can find them pretty quick. And one of the biggest or most interesting things I saw is that there were some of them who were talking about they wanted to see Godzilla vs. Kong. They were interested in the movie. But they were like talking to each other, and one of them says, "Is it okay if I pirate the movie?" And the other said, "Yes, just as long as you don't watch it on HBO Max, because we're going to send a message."
Here's the thing with Snyder fans. They're practically cult, and they're not... It's like there's a difference between them and normal DC fans, in my opinion. I've seen normal DC fans call them out. They think they're they have a holier-than-thou attitude. They think that their property's better. This isn't the first time they've done it. They've done it with Marvel movies. They've done it with Star Wars films. I feel like they feel very insecure, but that is no excuse for their behavior at all. Don't when they start harassing people like that, it's not justified in the slightest. They're becoming villains in themselves. No. There's these movies. This whole the whole thing with Justice League. Oh, we gotta show people how to be better. We gotta show people that we need to work together. But all they're doing is building bridges. They're building walls. They're dividing each other. It's... I don't really understand why they do it. They got their movie. It's so you just want to prove that it's better, everyone? Oh, we've seen the movie. We know it's good. Okay, let's be done with it.
Yeah, I'm a little worried about the future of Hollywood productions going forward. I feel and while the results have been great with both the Sonic redesign and then this Snyder cut of Justice League, I just have a feeling that is a dangerous trend to be supporting. Because basically, these companies have been bullied into making these changes. And I could be wrong on this, but I'm pretty sure that the redesign of Sonic ended up putting a company, killed a company, basically.
Yeah, it's the same company that did King of the Monsters and Detective Pikachu.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know
so,
that.
I think it's cool that fans have been able to voice their opinion and changes have been made. But I don't know. There's something that kind of gives me a bad feeling about the future of what if fans aren't satisfied. Because I think
entitlement.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think we could say and maybe agree on sometimes the fans don't know best.
Listen,
right.
as a writer, one of the top tips I've heard, and the one thing I believe in, is you want to give, how do I put it? You want to give the audience what they want, but not what they know they want. So when fans can just like force the movie to have whatever they want into it, or force their hand, that's insane. And another thing, getting back to Snyder himself, I have no problem with Snyder necessarily. Did he direct Man of Steel, by the way?
Yes, he did.
I think he did Man of Steel and Batman vs Superman.
Man of Steel is
his...
the only DCEU film I've seen, and probably the only film I've seen from him. But I mean, they say that they call it the Snyder cult, and they kind of call it that for a reason, because it's as strange and like over the top as that sounds. I mean, this guy's managed to convince them all that he's a good director. So, just kidding.
Well, to be fair,
no. I'm just saying. Obviously, he has. He Justice League came out really well. He also has other films that are kind of iffy. For me, Man of Steel was meh, and then I've not heard a single good thing about Batman versus Superman. I'm not gonna lie. Well,
it's.
Go ahead.
He has done good work. He's done Dawn of the Dead, which, in my opinion, has the best credit sequence in any movie I've ever seen. And he also did 300, which was a incredible adaptation.
Oh, did he do 300?
Yes, he did.
Okay, well, you know what? I don't know. I'm not gonna take it back. I don't like Zack Snyder. I don't like Zack Snyder.
I think directors are allowed to have their bombs, and they're allowed to have their perfect films.
Right. Look at Ishiro Honda. He has plenty of bombs and good films.
Yeah, and even speaking a little hopefully and optimistically, but Godzilla vs. Kong seems like it's going to be a pretty decent film. And Adam Wingard also directed the stinker Death Note that I heard was very unpopular amongst Death Note fans.
Fantastic film. 10 out of 10.
Well, from what I've read, there's a lot of studio interference that happened with Death Note.
Well, here, what I'll say with Death Note, we'll go touch on that. Death Note is one of my favorite anime. That film, whether I'd call it a good film or not, it was certainly entertaining. It was not faithful or accurate. I won't give it close to that, but that film entertained me. Either way, what I want to say is my main thing is it's not actually about Snyder. As much as I'm not a fan of Snyder as a director generally. I guess 300 would be an exception, but also I haven't watched 300 in a while, so I mean, yeah, I can't even say that I really love that film either. But I guess the main point is about the toxicity in the community and the insanity that I've seen. Like, I think the thing is, I think part of it, what they're worried is that the Snyderverse is probably done. Like, as much as like the movie is doing well now, I'm pretty sure, from what I've heard, that it didn't do quite well enough to continue the Snyderverse. So I think that's part of their resentment. But I think there's a point where you gotta cut your losses, and especially you would think part of why, like what Tyler mentioned, they're not exactly DC fans, because there's other good DC films or potentially good DC films being made, but they seem to only want Snyder's vision, and they don't know how to cut their losses. I'll be honest, I think Godzilla vs. Kong has a really big chance of being the last MonsterVerse film. Now, it's not confirmed, and they even said that if this does well, there will be more. But if it's the last MonsterVerse film, so be it. There's no reason to... I don't feel like either of y'all guys are going to start leading armies of Godzilla fans to do a tirade to restore the, I guess, MonsterVerse.
Like, so long as Godzilla... If it's the last one, so long as it's a good movie, I'm alright, so be it. Good way to end it off.
My opinion is, even if it is a bad movie, Godzilla's no stranger to bad movies. No offense. Godzilla has plenty of bad movies to look at, so it won't. I don't think it'll hurt the legacy of Godzilla, and I won't be mad. Now, honestly, from what I've seen and from what we've heard, which this is something we can, unless y'all have any last thoughts on the Snyder cult, that is something I'd like to transition into is the Godzilla versus Kong discussion, because I kind of want to open the doors and allow we're basically anything that's been officially released by Legendary that y'all have seen, I'd like to discuss.
Sure.
So, anyone who's listening to this right now, if you are worried about spoilers, which again, once something's released by the company, spoilers are subjective. So, we're not talking about anything that's been leaked. I think y'all have both seen a couple of leaks. I saw something. We're going to avoid that. We're just going to talk about things that are officially released. So, according to Legendary, these are not spoilers. However, there are some things that would be considered spoilers to someone who, let's say, has only watched the first trailer and is trying to hide from everything else. That type of thing. So just if you're worried about anything like that, go ahead and mute the video. Make sure it runs all the way to the end because we need the watch time.
Well, what I'll do is I'll put up a time card, so that way if you guys are wanting to skip over the Godzilla vs. Kong stuff, at least for the visual listeners, there will be a time card to where you can skip directly into the next segment of the podcast.
Yeah, so trying to think. Did y'all get to watch the Godzilla, like the little video I was talking about that was the HBO Max special, the 3-minute thing on Godzilla?
Not yet.
Yeah, I have seen that one.
So I really liked what I saw there. Okay.
But I get the general idea of what's happening, so
yeah,
you can go ahead.
I really like that Godzilla... No, I don't think... From what we can tell, I don't think Godzilla is actually the bad guy. But I like that he's being portrayed as that. Yes. Yes, believe it or not, there might be another monster somewhere in this film that could be the bad guy. I don't know. I mean, this is speculation.
I thought this was a whole, the world's World War II souls have taken over Godzilla's body. I thought that's what this film was going to be about.
No, you competent buffoon. That's not what it. Aliens are controlling him. Jeez.
No. Wait, you're telling me this isn't a shot-for-shot recreation of King Kong versus Godzilla, but with updated graphics?
Hey, all I'm saying is, if we want to have Andy Serkis, portray an alien monkey and say that he's controlling Godzilla, sign me up. I'm all for it.
Did y'all all see Mechagodzilla?
Yes.
I've
Yeah, I saw that little Chinese teaser with him.
I've seen the picture, but I've not actually seen the clip. But at this point, I've seen so many of the figures and of the other things that it doesn't really matter too much to me. So
I mean, all it basically is, a little dome opens up, and then you see his back, and then his eye lights up, and then he stomps. So, I mean, it is pretty tasteful in the way of hiding the entire design. I still wish that there was none of him in the marketing. I even wish they would take out the little segments in the first trailer that kind of show him.
I kind of like those. But yeah, I see what you're saying. Like, if they wanted to really be coy about it, they could have, never told us. And Now, here's the thing. Everyone's been I don't know about y'all. When Godzilla 2014 came out, and then we heard there was a sequel, everyone suspected that... Or when we heard that Godzilla vs. Kong was happening for the first time, everyone suspected that Godzilla and Kong were going to have to team up against another enemy, probably Mechagodzilla. And I mean, it's exactly that happened. Now, I don't think that's a bad thing. I mean, it would be cool if it was a surprise, Destroyer showed up or something, but, I mean...
Yeah.
Or the Griffin.
Notice Legendary... Yes. But notice Legendary, they're smart, money-wise. They stuck to the big 5 Toho monsters. And that's probably why Anguirus didn't get to actually be in on screen. Sadly, I think Anguirus would have been neat.
I feel like Anguirus is like number 6 or 7 in Toho's lineup, so like we were on the verge of it.
Yeah, I mean
he
you
did
know,
appear
his cork is
as a corpse.
Yeah, his skeleton's right outside of the chambers, the Atlantean chambers or whatever in Godzilla King of the Monsters.
Yeah, it's on the screen for like a solid 3 frames, and then it gets vaporized.
My favorite 3 frames of the movie. Okay, so I'm actually right now. I'm trying to. Maybe I'm missing it. I'm skimming through this trailer looking for the Mechagodzilla scene because since
if you look up Luminous, he does a lot of Godzilla videos and toy reviews and stuff. He's got the trailer posted. I think he was one of the first people who posted it.
Okay.
The thumbnail should just be a picture of Mechagodzilla's back, I believe.
Yeah, this trailer.
Mechagodzilla's back.
Yeah, this trailer I'm seeing has that, but I'm skimming through it, and maybe it's like a lot less shown than I thought. Okay, there we go. Oh, I need like a timestamp. Maybe I'm just skipping over it too much. Either way,
I think it's after they show like the Godzilla vs. Kong logo and the date. It's like an after credit scene for a trailer.
Oh, I'm seeing it. Oh,
It's Hollywood. Everything needs to have an after credit scene.
yeah. Honestly, I heard Rob from ETN say this, and now that I look at it, I kind of agree. That didn't really show too much. Like, it showed that Mechagodzilla's there, but there's still a lot to be seen. Like, we saw his back slightly move, so I don't feel spoiled. I just feel like we already knew Mechagodzilla was the thing. Now, if someone didn't know Mechagodzilla was in the movie, yeah, maybe that's a spoiler to them.
Yeah. But if they follow Legendary's official accounts, they would be screwed either way, since they are now officially full blast marketing their Mechagodzilla merchandise.
Merchandising. Okay, this doesn't really have to do with Mecha G, but this is a missed opportunity, in my opinion. Tag match. Throwing Mechani Kong.
Yeah.
Hey,
honestly, Mechani Kong led the mechanical kaiju revolution. He was the first doppelganger.
I was about to say, I learned that today. Mechani Kong predates Mechagodzilla. That surprised me.
Yep. But I'm serious though. That would be legit awesome.
That could be cool.
It should have been Kong defeats Godzilla. It's revealed that he's Mechagodzilla. Godzilla defeats Kong. It's actually Mechani Kong, and then Kong shows up to help Godzilla defeat both of them.
That would make sense.
That was a joke, by the way. That wasn't. That would be terrible.
No, that would be great. No, they're hiring you now.
It'll make sense to have both of them in it. Because of course, the whole plot description says a plot to destroy all Titans. Why not, a mechanical Titan army?
Listen.
Yeah, I mean, if you only have... what do you do if you're trying to destroy the Titans and your one and only Titan weapon it gets destroyed?
Now, okay, so let me paint a picture for you guys. So just imagine this for a second. You're watching a film. Okay, Godzilla's fighting King Kong. Then King Kong sticks his axe, it's the same way that Kong sticks the tree into Godzilla's mouth, like a cameo type thing. But sparks start flying out of Godzilla's mouth, and then he falls over. And you see it's Mechagodzilla, and the little hatch opens, and a man in a suit walks out, and he drops his cigarette. He says, "Oh, if it isn't spicy." Just kidding. No, yeah, you'll get that one later.
I don't think I laughed this hard in a long time.
I actually misquoted.
All right, so you know what actually is going to happen? Have you guys ever seen any of the gameplay for the Godzilla Generations video game?
Yeah.
Okay,
I know what you're
at the end of the film, it's going to be Mechagodzilla, Godzilla, and Kong teaming up to take down a giant Serizawa who was radiated by the nuke that revived Godzilla.
Yes. He's still his hands are welded to the oxygen destroyer, so he can't move his hands off it. So he has to put it over his head and swing it down to hit them. He just bonks them.
And then it's gonna be a slow pan up, and it's gonna zoom out on his face, and it's gonna be, "Let me fight."
He'll get his powers from God himself just by praying.
Speaking of no, I'm gonna save this thought. But what I will say is I feel like at some point we need to redo Godzilla 1954 because the more I've learned about it, the more I've like there's a lot more there. I feel like we did a pretty bad job of covering all bases on some of the themes there.
Well, there was more I wanted to talk about, but I didn't want to, I didn't want it to overstay.
It would have been a 2.5 hour podcast.
Exactly.
I feel like there will be plenty of opportunities in the future to touch on some of those points with the other Godzilla remakes, 84, 98,
Yeah.
2000, 2014.
There was, actually, what I will say is I'm kind of leaking it now, but I do have an idea, and I'm probably going to make a video essay on Dr. Serizawa, which honestly I might actually try to shoot for like a pretty decent length, like a 15-minute video, just because as I was thinking about that, I have a lot to say. Either way, we need to get back to the serious stuff. Rodan, is Rodan going to be in the movie?
I doubt it.
What about you, Will? Do you think Rodan will be? Is Rodan confirmed?
See, I hope before seeing Rodan in King of the Monsters, my thought was it would have been really cool to have a credit scene at the end of King of the Monsters where Rodan flies to Skull Island, they have a scuffle, and Kong actually defeats Rodan. I felt like that would have been a cool way of, okay, Kong isn't going to get his ass handed to him as hard as we thought because he just took out Rodan.
Yeah,
but that was before King of the Monsters. Obviously, I don't think that would have worked out.
I think
with the Rodan we got, but
I think they could.
We
pull
have the
it
potential
off.
to see Rodan.
Yeah, no.
But
so what I was thinking is like what you just described. Imagine if that was the opening of this movie. Like that could be cool.
I would love to see Kong take out another Titan before fighting Godzilla in this film. Something to just establish that he's up to the challenge. Because, I mean, defeating the Skullcrawler isn't that big of a feat, especially considering he needed, the help of the humans to distract the Skullcrawler a couple of times.
I mean, if you want to do that, why not just have him fight multiple adult Skullcrawlers on the island?
Yeah, something.
Have you noticed that in the MonsterVerse, Godzilla and Kong, every final battle they had to get help? Oh, I was thinking about that.
I mean, that's actually a case with a lot of the Godzilla movies, though.
Yeah, Godzilla Final Wars is notable for that one, in my opinion. But
yep, Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla 2. Like, Godzilla would have lost like a good chunk of his fights without human help.
Yeah,
Heck, even without the help of other monsters. So,
versus Mechagodzilla 2 would have been Rodan's help because the humans almost killed Godzilla.
Right.
That one.
Speaking of, when we get to our film of the week today, we should go ahead. I propose we start a Godzilla win-loss record counter. I know that there's people who've put it up, but I think we should come to our own decision because some people consider different fights different results.
Right.
So either way, but okay. So speaking of win-loss, Adam Wingard said, whether we believe him or not, it's a different story, said there will be a definitive winner. Now, I guarantee neither of these monsters will die. But let's believe him, because I think it's possible. I think there's a way they could do it. Who do y'all think is going to win?
Me.
Yeah, the audience.
Yeah, me in the theaters, yeah.
Well, to be fair, it's gonna be hard because King Kong's the underdog character, and they usually win in these kind of movies. Like, look at Cap and Tony fighting Civil War, Batman, Superman, Captain America won, Batman won. But the other thing is that Godzilla's more popular now than ever. Like, probably even outranking Kong nowadays. So,
did y'all see the chart
possible
I had at the end of my Godzilla 2014 video? Sorry for interrupting, Bud, but there's a little chart I had that was the popularity based on, I think it was based on Twitter hashtags, so not necessarily the most accurate, but it was the popularity of the monsters per state, and Kong only won 3 states in the U.S.
Oh, yeah, I do remember about that.
Yeah, my little brother showed me that, and I'm like, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, so I don't know. Here's something I heard as like a theory that I think would work pretty well. Godzilla wins on the aircraft carrier, and Kong gets away, and then they fight again, and Kong wins. Similar scenario, like they separate, something causes them to separate, and then in the last they fight again one more time. Like three fights, and Godzilla gets the win right there, right before the final battle with Mechagodzilla.
That would make sense.
And then he kills them both, and the definitive winner is Mechagodzilla.
Yes, just can you imagine? Like, have y'all seen Glass? Like the from the Shyamalan movie?
I've really wanted to. I have not seen it yet.
I heard it was disappointing.
I can't say it then. I liked it. I loved it a lot, but what I would say would spoil what I was, or if I even say what I'm thinking here, it might spoil that movie. So we're gonna reverse.
Spoilers: there's glass in the movie.
Yes, there's a lot of glass in the movie.
So as far as the winner goes, I think it's really hard because I think the Kong Godzilla is going to fight in this film. While it's the same character, it's a very different Kong than the Kong we saw in Skull Island. I mean, for one, he's a ton bigger. If Godzilla showed up in the 2017 movie, Kong would not survive. No chance at all. But I don't know. I feel like part of me wants to think, well, if Kong won the original, isn't it Godzilla's turn to get that victory? And then that way, film-wise, they're tied.
Yeah.
Kong won once, Godzilla won once.
It's kind of like Rocky 2, where Rocky lost in the first film. Now it's his chance for redemption.
Yes.
Yeah.
I will say...
And I have a feeling there would be a bigger uproar if Godzilla loses versus if Kong loses, just because of the believability of it a little bit. But...
So my theory is there are no King Kong fans. So hear me out. There are Godzilla fans who will spend hundreds of dollars on his merchandise, on these plastic figures, and all this. As someone who contributes to this, by the way, I don't want to be demeaning, but a bunch of dumb stuff that we don't really need, but we just enjoy. But
it's pretty.
The people buying the King Kong figures are the Godzilla fans who just who like him as well. But the people who like King Kong over Godzilla, generally, I've noticed, are the people that have watched maybe the Peter Jackson King Kong, or they're casual audiences that have heard of King Kong and heard of Godzilla, and they like Monkey over Lizard. And I'm not trying to say that as a bad thing. Like, people can like what they want, but I'm just saying, in my opinion, I don't think there's anyone who's a real big King Kong fan. So
I know a guy.
Who? Angry Video Game Room?
Big Jack Films.
Jack.
He's a YouTuber. Look him up.
Another Kong fan would be kind of funny, but Peter Jackson, he owned several pieces from the original film before he got the rights to do his adaptation.
Let me break this down. We're not trying to make Chris look stupid right now. We're trying to prove a point. The Godzilla fans deserve a win.
That's only two people.
Yeah, that's only...
How many Godzilla YouTubers and stuff can you name? Is there a Kong Fest in Chicago? No, I think that's the Godzilla Fest.
Yeah, see, it's like...
do you see Kong Room Collection Tours on YouTube? No, it's Godzilla Room Collection Tours.
I mean, unless they have like an armature or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what... Okay, either way, I'm gonna nail it down right here. Have y'all seen the Adam Wingard interview with IGN?
Not yet.
So
I think I saw, because that's the one to where they revealed a little bit more of the aircraft battle, right?
Yes.
Okay.
So
then, yeah, I've seen that.
In this scene, Adam Wingard talks about that he says there will be a definitive winner, and he says that ever since he was a little kid on the playground, he would always argue, and he knew who would win between Godzilla versus King Kong. And he kind of implied that that's who was actually going to win. On top of that, Adam Wingard as far as I can tell, I might have to look into it, but I think he's a bigger Godzilla fan than he is a King Kong fan. So with that's kind of meta evidence, but I do think that, especially because I don't think either could die or either will die, and I think that if it does well, we'll get more movies.
What
so
are
it's
you
not
doing
like
back here?
this is the end. But
Oh, I'm sorry. My dog. Sorry about that.
okay, no problem. No, I'm just saying. I think external evidence points to a Godzilla win. Actually, that's my opinion anyway.
Yeah. The only thing that's a little concerning just regarding the future of the MonsterVerse is, now I don't know when this series is supposed to take place, but we do know that Kong is getting a animated series through Netflix that is part of the MonsterVerse. So if that takes place after Godzilla vs. Kong, I don't know if that alludes to, a last minute upset to where Kong wins. But no, I'm pretty confident that Godzilla will be the victor of the final battle. Or, whichever is the battle that declares the definitive winner or whatever. But as far as that goes, I kind of want Godzilla to win just so I can brag to friends and family, because I know here in this household we're divided. My brother and I are on Godzilla's side, and my parents are both on Team Kong, so it's a split household.
Must have a hard time sleeping at night.
So either Godzilla wins and I get to boast, or Kong wins and I'm going to be ridiculed by my own family. Yeah, I think that's all I've got for the moment. I guess we'll kind of wait. I know he said keep going, but
Yeah. So, it's like either way, I've never would have guessed they would ever do this again, considering how stingy Toho is with crossovers.
I remember exactly where I was. I think it was around the 4th of July a couple years ago that they announced all this. And I was sitting on my driveway watching fireworks, and I was in disbelief when I got this notification on my phone that Godzilla vs. Kong was officially in production. They were redoing it, and that Mothra and King Ghidorah and Rodan were going to be in the MonsterVerse. I was in complete disbelief of everything. I could not believe it.
Yeah, that was kind of the last thing anybody expected after Godzilla 2014. We were like, okay, well, where's this gonna go? Because honestly, when 2014 came out, there was no MonsterVerse. I mean, I think they had plans for it, but really what it was is this movie came out, and then the box office hit, and then a little bit later.
That's where they made every announcement. Like, as soon as the box office results came out, they're like, "Oh, yep, we're gonna milk this kaiju dry."
Yep.
And with 2014, it not having any Toho monsters kind of led me to believe that we weren't really going to see anybody outside of Godzilla, because part of me thinks, wouldn't you want to utilize another popular monster in your debut film?
Right.
But, I mean, I understand licensing. I mean, look at what happened with Godzilla 98 and how much Toho was going to charge them to use Mothra or King Ghidorah.
Yeah.
Because they wouldn't let them use the Griffin.
I think Toho was smart to pull it back a little bit, and then once they saw that they understood what Godzilla was, then it seemed like they could. Now, I'm sure they had to buy those rights, but I think they were probably going to be a bit more lenient, because the fact that they got Rodan, King Ghidorah, and Mothra tells me that Toho probably wasn't as stingy as they usually were with those prices.
Right. It's like they recognize that they did their character right, and they respect that. So they decide, see if they can pull off their other characters right.
So you had mentioned Rodan, Chris. What about Mothra? they in the credits they mentioned that egg. Do we think maybe we might see anything about that in Godzilla vs Kong? Because I mean, you could go the route of having another Mothra hatch and die, or you could go the Batra route, which I doubt they would go, but I would love it. But what are your guys' thoughts on that?
I feel like it's just a little thing where it's like, yep, she's not really dead. She'll be back.
Yeah, I think that's.
I feel like
I think that's kind of like taking from like the Shoho Mothra or Shoho the Showa Mothra, where like Mothra was never really dead. Like Mothra always was passed on, and I think they're going with a similar thing here because Mothra is even in this universe kind of presented as like a goddess figure. So it's kind of like Mothra's spirit dwells within this egg. Now, whether it'll come out in this movie, I kind of doubt it. I feel like there would be something shown just because the fact that they showed Mechagodzilla already. I feel like we would see something that hints towards that. But, and also one thing is Michael Dougherty, he said that a lot of the little things they added in there were kind of just for funsies. I do think that if the MonsterVerse continues, there will be another Mothra. But,
no, wait. The rebirth of Mothra.
It would be cool if they had a Mothra film, but I don't know if that would sell to the American audiences.
I mean, you'd be surprised. Like, Ant-Man sold, and a lot of people didn't think it would have been that impressive, so...
I think if Godzilla vs. Kong does really well, and then has like an after... Well, there's no after credit scene confirmed. But... if it has some sort of scene that hints towards Mothra, and then pretty soon we get something about that, maybe the audience is like, let's say if Godzilla vs. Kong is just a really good like action movie that gets a lot of people into it, then I could see people turning to the box office. Like I could probably revive the MonsterVerse, give it a kickstart, but still, Mothra is just a name that, although is big, it's not Godzilla. And if the last Godzilla movie didn't do super great, it's kind of like it's a risk for sure.
I think the concept of Godzilla, whether or not he's actually rogue or if he's being manipulated by something, I think seeing if the dynamic between Godzilla and Mothra would change at all. Would she, if she did not die in King of the Monsters, would she be attacking alongside Godzilla? Would she be trying to stop him? I think that would be an interesting thing we could explore, but I think for Godzilla vs. Kong, that would make it more complicated than what it might already be.
I feel like she would try to stop him.
That's what I would lean towards as well. And another thing is, I would have loved to see, film's not out, we still could see it, but I've always thought an interaction between Kong and Mothra would be cool, because I've always thought they're kind of similar. They both are from an island of people who worship them.
Like, it almost happened.
They had a relationship in Monster Island Buddies.
No, like, it almost happened with, what was it? The original version of Ibera Horror of the Deep, King Kong was supposed to be the main protagonist in that one.
Yep. Yeah, that's why we get that really weird scene with Godzilla, kind of going for the lady.
Yeah.
Come here, my pretty.
So one thing to think about, though, let's say if they never got the rights to King Kong, Godzilla vs. Kong could have ended up being basically like Tokyo SOS. If you have Mechagodzilla here, and then Mothra's fighting Godzilla.
Pretty much.
Because if they have Mechagodzilla as the villain, they could team up against him, but also like you would have the perfect setup for like which I'm not saying we need a Tokyo SOS remake, but it could be interesting.
So another interesting concept for speaking on the future of the MonsterVerse, Godzilla King of the Monsters and Godzilla vs. Kong have shown us characters we are already familiar with. Could a future installment of a Godzilla film in the MonsterVerse succeed if Godzilla is the only kaiju that we know in that film, and we go back to another case of the Mutos to where we're using brand new monsters?
I think it has a chance of succeeding, so long as the monster they make is interesting enough.
It all depends on, like I'll say, my answer for any future MonsterVerse film is it all depends on the both sales and the reception of Godzilla vs. Kong both need to be pretty significant. So even if like it's just Godzilla and other monsters, a lot of casual audiences might not know these other monsters anyway. Now, I'm sure more people like there's a good amount of people that recognize King Ghidorah, Rodan, and Mothra from something, but
Yeah, Rodan or Mothra and King Ghidorah are more so from friends who maybe watched one movie on the TV a long time ago. But a lot of my friends actually had no clue who Rodan was, and they were really surprised when I explained that. He had his own movie once upon a time.
yeah, it's kind of I'm trying to think. It's kind of interesting how like a lot of people I talked to have watched a couple Godzilla movies. Or like there's more people than I realized that they watched a couple when they were little, and they all know who Mothra, King Ghidorah, and sometimes even Rodan are. Sometimes they'll even it'll be like they watch a specific movie, so they'll be like, "Hey, do you know that like one-eyed like chicken monster?" And it's like, "Okay, you're talking about Gigan." But almost everyone knows who. I would say, yeah, I think out of any of them, Mothra would probably have the best chance of a standalone movie. Like even though I said I was kind of hesitant on it. But I do think that if Godzilla vs. Kong does really well and it's well received and people have good memories of that film, that would be a good indicator of another Godzilla or Kong film obviously doing good.
I would like to see Kong get another. I would have liked to have a second Kong film before this Versus film.
Right.
Like in between, like figure out some. I think there was doesn't one of the comics
maybe
come
have
out?
it take place in the 90s. Yeah, and the prequel quote unquote comic to Skull Island was kind of weird because they had some weird like flashbacks, but the guy was experiencing the flashbacks as if they were real, and it touched on Kong's origin some, but it took place in the 90s, so I feel like there definitely could have been another Kong movie set before, even do it before the Muto escapes and goes to Janjira or whatever, in the 90s. I feel like that could have worked.
Yeah, you do. What is it? Yeah, you saw the Skull Island anime. Did y'all hear that it's set in the 1930s?
Really? No, I did not hear that.
Yeah, so I think it might cover like John C. Reilly's story or something like that.
No. It's going to explain how the ship crashed. And that one ship? That was the SS Voyager, the one from the original King Kong. So it's going to explain how all that happened.
So we're going to go back to Itty Bitty Kong.
Yep. I'm trying to think. I would say, it would be... This has been interesting talking about Godzilla vs. Kong, but... We actually have another movie that we need to go ahead and discuss.
All right, Birdemic.
Yes. Actually, The Giant Claw.
Ooh.
By the way, that's a movie we should actually cover on here.
Yeah. I was going to say that. So much squandered potential.
But, so in if you want to call it Godzilla-thon, if you will, hopefully Cinemassacre doesn't sue. We're going to
Godzilla Palooza. There.
Godzilla Palooza. We're going to be moving on to the next film, the second film and the sequel to Gojira, which is Godzilla Raids Again, otherwise known in America as Gigantis the Fire Monster. Now, I believe, Will, you watched the subtitled, the original Godzilla Raids Again, as did I.
Correct.
And then Tyler, you watched Gigantis the Fire Monster, so we have both covered.
Yep.
Compare and contrast. Tyler, have you ever seen the sub version?
I have.
Okay, so you can compare amongst your own experiences too, which should be interesting. I will say off the bat, I came into this film thinking I was not going to like it. And I have to say, I was pretty wrong. I actually enjoyed this film quite a bit more than I expected to.
I was definitely in the same boat. I went into this rewatch with very low expectations. This was a film that I recalled not liking growing up. Now, granted, I did watch when I grew up, I watched the Gigantis version. This was the first time I had watched the Japanese version. But I was pleasantly surprised overall, and I would almost go as far as saying, and this might be a little controversial, but I feel like this film is almost as important to the Godzilla series as the original, because this kind of sets up the precedent that we'd see for the next 60-something years. The concept of Godzilla versus another monster.
Yeah, I think I would agree that it's as important to the Godzilla series as the original, but what I would say is, I think when I called the original important in our last podcast, I meant in more of a cultural and a like a message type of thing. I feel like...
Oh, yeah, definitely.
But this...
The way I would... Oh.
Go ahead.
The way I would describe this movie is the Nagasaki to the original's Hiroshima. It's more powerful, it's more boisterous, but doesn't have that same impact culturally and when it comes to the message and all that.
That's an interesting way to put it. Which before I forget, I don't know if it was covered in Gigantis the Fire Monster, but there's a scene they talk about Anguirus, who I did not know, but is actually supposed to be just an ankylosaurus. Like, literally just a big ankylosaurus is what they straight up said. I guess Anguirus is some sort of rough translation for it, but in the sub I was reading, they were saying, hey, this is an ankylosaurus, also known as Anguirus, just like we thought. And they pull out their little dinosaur book. But one thing they said about it is that its brain was distributed through the torso and abdomen, which allowed it to be faster reflexes or something weird like that. As the resident, the paleontologist of our group, Tyler, I'm kind of curious what you think about that and how, quote-unquote, accurate that is.
And I should say real fast, they also did mention in the sub that he is carnivorous.
Oh, really?
Well, the whole...
Yeah.
The whole brain thing was based on a debunked theory that this animal's brain was so small there's no way its whole body could function properly, so it would need a second brain, but that's been debunked a long time after.
Oh, okay.
And that's actually a recurring theory we see in kaiju films. That appears again in Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla 2, and again as recently as Pacific Rim. Those are both plot points. So it's kind of interesting that it started all the way back in the second film.
Another thing I find interesting is that they call Anguirus an Ankylosaur. It's similar to what they did in the original Rodan. They said Rodan was just a Pteranodon.
It's interesting how much of what these kaiju are today are just what scientists got wrong about dinosaurs at the time of them being made. Like, Godzilla stands the way he does because that's how they thought dinosaurs stood, like the theropods. And then
it was based on the posture of Iguanodon, actually.
Oh, really? Actually, I do remember hearing that, but it's still sort of that, like, there was a misconceptions they had about that. And, I'd say Rodan, even in the beginning, doesn't look quite like a Pteranodon, but that probably is from shortcomings in their special effects rather than the lack of wanting it to be.
I would say that he looks more like a Pteranodon than Anguirus looks like an Ankylosaurus, though.
I suppose. I think it's close. Like when you see Anguirus, especially like if you look in Godzilla Singular Point, they basically redesigned him as an Ankylosaurus, and I think less people were complaining about that because I don't know. For me, I think Anguirus being an Ankylosaurus almost makes more sense because he has no special abilities and he's a really, like, as much as I like his design, he's kind of bland. Like, he's a pretty base monster. He just goes and brawls. Now, obviously we don't have to really discuss too much, but Ankylosaurs were not carnivores, as far as I know.
That was a common thing with a lot of older dinosaur movies, even the original King Kong turning up herbivorous dinosaurs into carnivores.
Yep.
it's more entertaining, I suppose.
I mean, I recall that that's happened as late as the move. As have you guys ever collected the cards series called Dinosaurs Attack?
I have not.
Oh, pretty much imagine a dinosaur imagine like a 50s dinosaur movie, but with 80s gore, and it kind of goes back to that. You know, even the herbivorous dinosaurs were flesh eaters in that.
Huh. I think you
Yeah.
showed me this before, actually. I think I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Well, and what's the film to where the sauropod or the long neck dinosaur? I can't think of what those are. Usually,
that was the original King Kong, the one where it grabs a guy out of a tree.
yeah, but there's one to where that type of dinosaur attacks one of the cities and is eating people in the city. But it wasn't King Kong.
The
I
Lost
think that's what it
World.
was.
The Lost World.
Yeah.
What? I was just saying The Lost World is the movie that was in. Tyler, are you there?
So
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay.
okay, cool.
Yeah,
It went all quiet for a second. I was worried maybe we got disconnected again. I thought it was interesting how many of Anguirus's character traits from his origin film don't really make a return, because they say he's carnivorous, he's super hyper aggressive, he's territorial towards other monsters, and I feel like really the only thing Anguirus, keeps from this film is his overall appearance, and he's typically one of the more agile monsters.
I think my theory is that he actually didn't die, and he just got beaten so bad that he was humbled. now he's Godzilla's friend, because if you can't beat him, join him. So
yeah.
But
yeah.
I will say Anguirus here, it was interesting seeing where he came from. But nothing remarkable. Kind of what you would expect, I guess.
It was pretty much fodder. In a way, it was kind of like fodder to show off how more powerful Godzilla is.
Well, it was kind of like a squash match in wrestling, except for if the match was like an Iron Man match. Like, it was like insanely, like they fought forever, but it's like you never believed that Anguirus had a chance of winning. It was just like they were scrapping, and Godzilla took a while to finish him off.
Right.
What was I gonna say?
I feel like there was kind of like untapped potential of Anguirus' reveal. Like, they could have expanded upon it, theorizing there might have been a whole lost world of mutated monsters still roaming the earth, and we've awakened them all. It would have been truly horrifying, concept they could have delved more into. And they kind of did Rodan and Viren, but after that, it's just, more of your usual sci-fi monster films.
Yeah, kind of building off of that concept of exploring that, I think with this being a direct sequel to the original, I feel like Serizawa's legacy is something that could have made this film a little more grim. They thought Godzilla was the only one of his kind. Serizawa kills himself while killing Godzilla, the only weapon that has ever defeated these monsters, and now we have two of them.
Yeah.
I just feel like that's something that would have been kind of really grim,
Yeah.
Does humanity just give up at this point? Because I don't think they would have ever been able to replicate the Oxygen Destroyer.
Not only that, but in the Japanese version, there's a scene with Dr. Umane just sitting there and, I wouldn't say horror, but he's, upset that he was right. That more radiation spawned another Godzilla.
He literally says there's no hope and they have no way of beating Godzilla.
Yeah.
And then,
yeah, he doesn't sugarcoat that at all.
Speaking of Dr. Yamane, though, I think just along what you're talking about with Serizawa, I do think they really, I don't know, they underutilized him. And they underutilized this as a sequel, to be fair. There's a reason they were able to change it to a different, Gigantis the Fire Monster so easily, because it really is not tied in a lot to the former film. Now, what you think of that is fine, but it's supposed to be a direct sequel, and the fact that they kind of halfway do it is kind of interesting. And before I forget, there's something. One thing we haven't mentioned yet: the special effects take a huge dip here from the first film, and it's highlighted.
With...
I'll finish and then I'll let you. It's highlighted by the fact that they open the movie with the 3-minute scene showing, like, basically every Godzilla scene from the former movie and showing how good those special effects are. And then immediately we go see Godzilla going at 3 times speed, you know, in a costume that looks like an emaciated version of the former, and, like, 10 years older, I guess I would say. Like, it looks like a 1940s film in comparison.
Yeah.
So I think that was a poor choice to, like, show, you know, the stock footage really highlighted the rushed and underwhelming effects in this one.
Mm-hmm. Like, it was literally released, like, just after or just as the production for the first film ended. So I feel like where the first one's supposed to be commentary, this one was supposed to be more spectacle, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I would argue that it kind of fails in that regard for me. What I will say, I'm gonna lay it down thick here. This is the first Godzilla film I've ever watched where the humans are having a scene, and I was annoyed that it was interrupted by Godzilla.
Really?
Yes. Yeah, so not the beginning part, because the beginning part was at least entertaining, but by the end, I started actually enjoying the character of Kobayashi, who is the secondary male character. He has this little, like, mini romance plot, and it's nothing spectacular, but I really was, like, kind of, like, getting into it. I was like, it was, like, pretty simple, but, you know, he was talking about the girl that he likes or whatever, and the girl he likes was the one he was talking to, obviously, and he was having her tell him what type of stuff to get for a lady, that type of thing. And then, while that was going on, you know, they hear Godzilla's, you know, sighted, so he has to leave, and then, you know, she opens the little book and sees, okay, well, actually, it was her that he liked, which is, you know, kind of sweet, but, you know, again, nothing crazy, but it was more interesting than what had been going on through the rest of this film, and it really kind of got me, I actually was invested in that character. And then, like I said, they interrupt this scene to give us about, basically just to send that character on his merry way to death. And when he sacrifices himself, I really feel like they should have had the finale of the movie right there, because they do this weird thing where all the planes after that go back to refuel, which, realism aside, is a very bad way to pace the ending of your movie, where you drop all the momentum and restart. By the way, also the main character, Tsukioka, he watches Kobayashi, his best friend, die and barely has a reaction to it. Which really, I think if his reaction was sold better, and they had the finale of the film immediately happen right there, this film would be a lot better, in my opinion, just with that. But instead, they destroy the pacing. Then they go back, and then they have 5 minutes straight of scenes where planes fly around Godzilla. He looks around, and he doesn't even really fight back. He just looks around, and then the planes shoot the mountains, and then he looks around, and then the planes shoot in the mountains, and he looks around, and then you're just, like, sitting here like, this movie should be 60 minutes. This movie should not be 80 minutes. These last minutes don't really matter, and you killed the only character that I cared about.
Right.
And if he had,
like, they don't really try to play out, like, Serizawa's death as a tragedy. They're just, oh, bye.
Or do you say Sarah? You mean Kobayashi?
No, it was like I was comparing his death to Serizawa's. They don't try to play it up like a tragedy like Serizawa's.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, I think part of it is kind of sad because I think that was on purpose, like, or the point of it was to kind of mirror that same theme of a human sacrificing themselves, but it was just kind of handled poorly, and especially because I was invested in that character at that point, it kind of like annoyed me that they would do that. So I mean, that was a downside to like a part where I was actually invested into it, and I really think for me, if you could bring this film's effects up to the level of the former film, and then, like I said, restructure the ending where instead, right after he sacrifices himself, obviously have his friend have a better reaction, but then finish the fight scene there, have them cave Godzilla in right there in 3 minutes, and the film's wrapped up. You don't need to have this weird intermediary scene. That would have bumped this film up quite a bit for me. And honestly, I enjoyed it more than I thought, but that would have made it like a genuinely good film, in my opinion. That difference right there. There's just some pacing issues that they did. But one thing, actually, now that I think about it, is a positive of this film, which, I mean, it's kind of a trend, but it kind of starts that trend, is that Godzilla always returns. And as simple as that sounds, I mean, obviously there's 35 movies or something like that. But what I mean by that is, in universe, you kill Godzilla, but humanity can't run from its mistakes. And Godzilla always comes back somehow. Like this actually, this actually happens prominently in the middle of Godzilla versus King Ghidorah, where even though they thought that Godzilla was out of the timeline, he finds a way to come back. Like, he's literally there. Not a Godzilla source, but as a Godzilla. And I know that you could argue that's bad writing, but I think that's part of that theme. And I think that theme starts here, where even though this is a rushed sequel to a much greater film, if we're honest, I think that it starts that sort of trend and that theme in the Godzilla series, that humans can't run from their mistakes. And Godzilla's here to remind us that.
Right. He's here to remind us that if we mess with nature, it will always come back to harm us.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like in a way, it's kind of like saying you can't fight just. How do I explain it? Like, you can't fight forever.
I kind of get what you're saying. It's kind of like a hopeless. It's, you kind of have to face down a hopeless future. Hey, you get what I'm going with there. I don't know if you'll.
Yeah.
Yeah, in the Godzilla singular point, or whatever. No one cares. Okay.
I care.
Okay. So, my last positive on the film, I'm kind of, as you can see, I'm kind of bouncing back and forth between positive and negative. Last positive here is the new score is good, but then it also turns back into the negative, because it's good, but it's not as good as Ifukube's. Obviously.
I recall hearing on one of the commentary tracks for Raids Again that the composer didn't like the score he did for the film at all. He's compared it to Child's first composition.
Oh, really? That's funny. So what I had heard about the composer, now I didn't hear his reaction to it, but I heard that while he was making it, he said his quote was basically, and obviously not a direct quote, I'm paraphrasing, but he said, "I can't do what Ifukube did. I can't do it better than him, so I tried to do something different." And obviously it's not as dark, but I think as for the film it's presenting, it works. And some of the tracks there were like genuinely pretty good. Again, you can't beat Ifukube, like the Special Defense Force theme, which ends up becoming Godzilla's theme in the long run. Which is that was originally for the actual Special Defense Force, and that becomes part of Godzilla's theme.
Which is really ironic when you think about it.
yeah, it's kind of funny how it stuck with him. But yeah, so I mean, again, you're comparing Akira Ifukube to this guy, which I believe returned for some other scores, and I think his scores were decent. But I mean, I think it's kind of unanimous that as a whole, Ifukube produced the most memorable themes. And I say that actually having a little bit of favoritism towards some of the Millennium themes. But I also recognize that none of the Millennium themes are quite as memorable or quite as important to Godzilla's
Impactful.
legacy. Yeah, that's
Right.
fair. Mm-hmm. I'll say, just to reference the ones I'm talking about, the Godzilla Millennium theme where the...
Dun, 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 dun.
yeah, that one. And then obviously GMK's soundtrack.
Yeah.
Which is godly.
Yeah.
But at that same time, it's still not as, it's not the same, really.
Yeah, it fits the films that it fits, but like the difference with a Fukube's theme is you could put it in any Godzilla film and it will work. Mm-hmm. That we saw that with King of the Monsters. Now, obviously, slightly revamped, but I honestly, when Godzilla 2014 came out and everyone was complaining about the theme, I'm like, I don't think it would fit with the new Godzilla. But then King of the Monsters proved that wrong. I think it fits wherever you put it in Godzilla's history. Well, let's say if we take some of the Millennium themes, they don't always mesh up. It's not the same, I guess is what I'm saying. They're great themes, but basically, we were talking about this other composer, but now we just went back to praising the first film soundtrack. But I guess what I should say is I've pretty much covered everything I feel like I want to cover on this film. If y'all have any final thoughts on it before we move on.
I'm pretty much ready to talk about the Gigantis version.
Do you want to do that first, or do you want me to wrap up the Japanese version, or how do you want to do that?
Yeah, Christian.
I'd say, Will, if you want to go ahead and give us our conclusion on the Japanese version, and then Tyler, you move on into talking about Gigantis, I guess.
Sure, yeah, that works for me. So I feel like this film has a really solid first 50 minutes or so, and then I feel like it really drops the ball after that. And another aspect of the film is I think it has the potential to be very interesting, and they don't pursue any of these other storylines or anything like that. We mentioned earlier, with both Serizawa and Dr. Yamane's characters were kind of, in their legacies, weren't really explored upon at all, which could have made the film darker. Godzilla just up and leaves after killing Anguirus. Like,
my work here is done.
Yeah, exactly. You know, how much darker would the film have been if Godzilla killed Anguirus and we had another rampage like we had in the original film, and he just goes, and now we're scrambling. How do we defeat Godzilla? The lights kind of worked. And speaking of the lights real fast, I kind of liked that whole little plot of the movie of luring Godzilla by the lights, and then he's going away, the fire starts, that brings him back, and then they mention how the flares are actually what lured Anguirus to the city.
Yeah, that's interesting.
It kind of shows that Godzilla, while still being powerful, he's still an animal.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that was something I liked. It kind of brought him down to earth a little more, I think. And I think something else that was missed that could have been cool is they do mention that this is the second Godzilla. I think it would have been cool if we had two Godzillas at the same time, and not just like another, 55 suit made. I mean, I feel like they could have even modified the original suit and used the 55 suit, having these two radically different Godzillas. And I don't know how this would have fit into the story. Basically, I just want to see two Godzillas on the screen at the same time.
I think
we've never really gotten that.
Maybe like a territorial dispute.
Yeah, something like that would have worked. I think
it would have just been
we've kind of had that with the Gauss and with Rodan.
I was gonna say it would have been kind of like the story of Rodan.
Yeah. Or even the Gargantuas, you know, if we go the route of having these two Godzillas fight.
Right.
Okay, I like that. That's kind of cool.
And I think that about wraps everything up for me. I would just say, you know, Anguirus was brutal in this film. He was vicious, and I think he was the right amount of just this brutal attacker compared to the more lumbering, atomic breath relying Godzilla.
Yeah.
And the first time he gets hit with the atomic breath, he doesn't react at all. He just sits there. And
There's like no audio, and then actually that's something I need to point out real quick. The fight scenes would be greatly enhanced if there was actual sound effects during them, but unfortunately there isn't. But I remember when the atomic
I feel like
breath
the
is
first
going.
two fights were okay.
Does it not look like because you see the mist and it doesn't even look as good as the first film? It just looks very weak. So like Anguirus is like turning his head.
The fire is horrible in this film.
Anguirus is like turning his head like he's being sprayed with a water hose, and he's like, hey, stop that, don't stop.
Yeah, he doesn't react at all. Really, I mean, you know, I would think that he would screech or roar in pain or something, but no, he just sits there.
Like he literally like turns his head like a little bit, like he's like, and he's like, it's like pestering him, like, hey, stop doing that.
Please, no more. That's rather irritating.
It's like, I'm gonna tell mom.
But then also after Godzilla bites him and kills him with the atomic breath, so it's like, okay, what happened in between the time Godzilla hit him the first time and then the second time?
That was actually the spiral ray at the end there. You couldn't tell because...
Oh, okay.
You know.
Yeah, it's in black and white. You couldn't tell.
Yeah.
Okay, I get you.
Wow, so that would put him on par with, like, Space Godzilla. Damn.
Yeah.
This is actually the strongest version of Godzilla.
And yet he lost to ice.
Yeah, I mean, and then this is the same Godzilla that fights King Kong, technically, so...
Yeah.
And then, actually, this is the same Godzilla in the entire Showa series. You ever think about that? That's interesting. Now,
this Godzilla has the most...
I don't know if we should really delve into the continuity of the Showa series.
The thing is, the Showa series is like the first... Like, technically is one continuity, but it's horrible. Okay, either way, you're right. Enough of Godzilla. I'm no more. I'm sick of Godzilla.
All right. Well, Godzilla's done. Time for Gigantis.
Yeah, let's talk about the real star of the show here.
It's like going into this, like, of course, the original idea, they were going to change the film into volcano monsters, just have it be an Ankylosaurus and a T-Rex. But unfortunately, that didn't fall through, so they just decided going Gigantis. And the odd thing is, there's a lot of changes, but the worst change is simply Godzilla's name change. Because they mention that, oh, this creature attacked before, oh, this creature died to an oxygen bomb. So why even change it? Like, even fans from the 50s just went, that's just Godzilla.
Yeah, they try to destroy the continuity, but then they just bring up the continuity anyway. That's great. Like, imagine if like Godzilla 2000 came out, and then they're like, yeah, Godzilla melted down before after fighting a space version of himself. But this is the first time we're seeing Godzilla. It's like, what?
No, Gigantis 2000.
Could you imagine in an alternate timeline? Gigantis.
Yeah.
Like all of the American... Imagine if that name stuck in all the American versions. Gigantis 2014. That would be interesting.
Gigantis singular point.
Gigantis Final Wars.
Actually, that one sounds kind of cool. I think you put Final Wars after anything, and it's like, okay.
So, what would the Zilla version of Gigantis be?
Gigantis in name only.
No. It'll just be Antis. No Jai.
Yeah, no Jai.
No, they're like, this isn't the true Gigantis. We're just gonna call this dumb creature Godzilla.
So did you notice that since I've not seen the Gigantis version since I was a little kid, but they mix up the names quite a bit in that film, right? And even some of the sound effects are jumbled between Anguirus and Gigantis.
Actually, that was on purpose. They didn't mix it up. They just thought that, Gigantis didn't have enough, roars, so they just did that. Even though during a few times in the film, like, you rarely hear the Godzilla roar. Like, you hear it once or twice in the city, and a few times during the climax in the iceberg. That's about it.
So what I heard, the behind-the-scenes reasoning was actually they were trying to make them both be... Now, you correct me what they say in the movie, but this is what their reasoning was. They were trying to make them both, like, brothers or, like, the fire monsters. Like, they were, like, the same species. So that's why their roars were interchangeable.
Yeah,
and that's why Godzilla has Anguirus' roar.
Right. Here's the weird thing. They still call Anguirus, though.
Gigantis and Gigantis. I was saying Godzilla for some reason. Different movie.
Right.
Gigantis and Anguirus. Yeah, that's fun.
So that sets the foundation for Red Godzilla in GMK.
They literally just changed everything. They didn't change anything, basically, except for dubbed it roughly, besides George Takei. And then...
Oh,
Gigantis.
My.
Oh, banana oil.
Oh, that was one of the best, ad-libs I've ever seen. But one complaint I have is, there's too much narration. Even compared to the Raids Again, there's so much. In the beginning, there's this, traditional 1950s, radio news announcer. But by the time we get to after the opening credits, it's just this Asian guy. I'm like, wait, what happened to the other guy?
It's just the Americans they're stupid. They need to be told what to believe. You can't just have the story be there.
This woman is feeling sad, even though she's clearly sad on screen. I feel like I should tell you. I'm actually the founder of 4 Kids, by the way.
Gigantis, such a strange and tragic, strangely innocent and tragic creature. Can you imagine if they had think about how much would change if that name stuck? We had the 1984 version. I don't know. Random thought. I'm kind of breaking the mold, but I got to talk about this. Raymond Burr loves Godzilla, and I appreciate his role in King of the Monsters more, knowing that he actually cared for it. Because, y'all know the speech that I'm referencing at the end of Godzilla 1985, the American version?
Yeah.
He wrote that speech himself.
Wow.
Really?
Yeah, that's impressive.
I did not know that.
Also, I'm sure you've heard this story, but they were trying to play Godzilla 1985 off like a spoof in America. And when he came in, he's like, hey, God, the message of Godzilla is important, and I want this to be serious. And that's why they asked him to drink the Dr. Pepper for the placement, and I guess he just stared at them, and they just didn't ask, and then the Dr. Pepper company told them, hey, did you ask him? And he's like, hey, y'all guys got to call him, and they were too scared to call him, so that's why that random army guy asked the Dr. Pepper. So either way, I'm just saying I appreciate Raymond Burr. Shout out, if you want to. He's dead, isn't he? Is he alive?
I don't know. Actually, he was pretty old in '84. I'll Google it real fast.
I think he has passed on, unfortunately.
Listen, Raymond Burr, whether you're dead or alive, you're welcome on the podcast anytime.
We just have a seance to bring back.
He passed in '93.
Well, listen, we need to have on the same episode, we resurrect A.G. Subaraya. We also need to bring him along.
Absolutely, yes.
We can find out what color Red King really is, and we can find out, I don't know, did Steve Martin and that Admiral have a thing going?
I don't know.
Or Mr. Martin in '84, since the actor Steve Martin was more popular at the time.
No. We should bring back the ghost of Yoshimitsu Banno.
Oh, no. Man, Man, Bono was he actually was a producer on Godzilla 2014, I believe, right?
Yep.
Yeah, and he got the credit in King of the Monsters. But
Yeah.
so I guess going on that little tangent real fast. Do you guys remember Deathla?
Yes.
I do not.
And then Godzilla 3D to the max.
Oh yes,
2012.
Yes. Okay, so Deathla was the Hedorah like sequel monster, and that was gonna be his film.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's I believe that's what started the whole Godzilla 2014 thing.
When it didn't happen.
Did you say wait? It didn't happen? Question mark.
No, like when it didn't happen, they did the 2014 thing.
Yeah. That's what started it. Which, do y'all guys remember for a while when we were just hearing rumors and it was supposed to be Godzilla 2012? And then, like, randomly...
Yeah, that's what 3D to the max was.
Yeah,
and there was a website and there was a timer.
and then randomly there was, like, this Comic-Con leak with... Which, actually, by the way, the Comic-Con leak was, like, the first thing I ever uploaded to YouTube. I found it. I don't know how I even downloaded it, but... No, actually, I think I just straight up recorded it on my phone and put it on YouTube, and it got like 4,000 views, even though my channel had 0 subs.
Wow.
And then Warner Bros. Took it down. But that was back in 2013 at that San Diego Comic-Con, if you know what I'm talking about, where you just saw the window.
Yeah.
That I wish I could find that footage. That was really cool.
Oh, wait, you're talking about the one with when he's walking by the window?
Yeah. Yeah, not...
Oh, okay, I thought you were talking about the first teaser trailer
not-
with "I am become death, the destroyer of worlds."
Yeah, not the teaser, but the Comic-Con thing. Apparently
that was so cool.
Yeah, apparently the teaser is actually what made Rob from ETN get his first boost, because he was the first person to put that up.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and obviously he made the most out of it because he's still. I mean, he's probably streaming right now. Actually, let's end this podcast. I want to listen. Just kidding. So yeah, do we have any last thoughts on? Actually, here first, I'm gonna go ahead and give my ratings. Godzilla Raids Again, I'm gonna probably rate a 5 out of 10. I think it was interesting and it had the potential to be a pretty good movie, but I think it kind of shot itself in the foot, I should say. Gigantis the Fire Monster, I'm gonna give a 10 out of 10. Honestly, makes the first film look bad in comparison, but what do you about y'all?
It is crazy that the American versions are so much superior to the Japanese ones. Like, why didn't Toho give us the rights to the character sooner?
Yeah, so, I mean, like, like, Godzilla King of the Monsters, Gigantis the Fire Monster, like, don't even get me started on, Godzilla versus the Thing. What about y'all? Your final thoughts on Gigantis?
I give this movie a Gigantis out of Godzilla.
That's a pretty good rating. Not too many get that prestigious award. The last movie that
I think
heard,
after giving it another... Oh, go
was
ahead.
it the last movie that Tyler gave a Gigantis out of Godzilla to, I believe, was Zombies.
Okay, for real, we need to look at those when the new one comes out. We need to look at them.
We just need to watch all three of them and have an episode where we just talk about the Zombies as like one episode.
They're the Zombies trilogy.
Halloween special.
Ooh, there we go. Perfect.
Ooh. Then again, there's a lot of stuff we could do for Halloween since, I'm a horror movie expert and all, but...
Well, listen, Zombies outranks any... Like, Halloween, A Nightmare on Elm Street, pales in comparison to the sheer horror of Zombies. Will, your final thoughts?
So yeah, wrapping up, I think I would go as far as saying, I would almost say Raids Again is kind of underrated for at least as much
I agree.
malice I had towards it leading up to this rewatch.
Yeah, one thing I should
So
clarify.
I think...
Oh yeah, sorry, I keep interrupting you.
No, you're good.
You paused just long enough that I'm like, okay, it's my turn to talk. Okay, last thing, and then I'll let you go. One thing I should clarify is I expected Godzilla Raids Again. Like, I know 5 out of 10 doesn't seem impressive considering I was talking so much good stuff about it. I expected it to be like a 2 out of 10. Like, I expected to hate this movie. And the fact that, honestly, the humans, the monster scenes and the special effects and a lot of that are what dipped it down for me. So, not that they were all bad. Like the fight scenes were decent, but like there was enough taken away from it that's what it lowered it down for me. But I actually enjoyed the characters surprisingly, and so that's why I only give it a 5 out of 10. When I think if it the small changes that I kind of were saying I wanted from it, it would have been a 7 to 8 out of 10 for me. Either way, floor's yours. I'm gonna stop. Cut it in.
All I was going to say is, we've got Godzilla vs. Kong coming out, I think, 4 days. It's coming out this next Wednesday. If you've already got HBO Max to watch Godzilla vs. Kong and you've not seen Raids Again, period, or you've not seen it in a while, I'd say give it a rewatch to see where this whole trend of Godzilla versus kind of started.
Yep.
It's... Just think of it as like looking back at history.
Think of it like watching two monsters brutally fight each other. And then a bunch of airplanes spin around Antarctica for 10 minutes.
I mean...
I'm sorry.
I guess my final thought would be I absolutely love Anger's sound design. I think that's what I will close my thoughts on.
How did they even do his sound design? Like, we know they did Godzilla's, but I don't think they ever revealed how they did it with Angulus.
Yeah, I would definitely be interested to know that.
Oh, I heard this. I was watching that guy. His name's Big Action Bill, and he said what they did, but I forgot. It was very simple. It was just like one instrument. One instrument that they played in a certain way. I think it was like a French horn or something. I will bring that information to you as soon as I can. But I might link that video to you. Watch Big Action Bill. I think that's his name. But he just basically the history of insert Godzilla movie. He's done 1954 all the way through GMK so far.
Okay.
Yeah, and the 1954 one's like an hour long, goes in depth. That's where some of this like stuff that I've been talking about. I've been learning quite a bit from him. I will say though, my final thoughts. No more. I'm sick of Godzilla. Yeah, I'm just kidding though. We have quite a few movies to go through before I can say that. But yeah.
2 down, 34 to go.
Oh yeah, we're almost there. So go ahead, go down to whatever you're watching this on and drop a subscribe. If you're on SonOfSeebo, watch my my MonsterVerse retrospectives because I actually put a good amount of work into those, and I think they came out pretty good.
Actually, if you're on SonOfSeebo, go ahead and hit subscribe, and then hit unsubscribe, and then go dislike every video.
Yes,
but no, I'm kidding. Actually, the Chris's retrospectives that he has been doing have been fantastic. I highly recommend anybody to go check those out.
Yeah.
Agree.
Will do you still stream? Are you streaming consistently, or have you been taking a break from it?
I kind of took a break from December to about the end of February, so I've been trying to stream at least once or twice a month now. So I'd like to eventually get back to bi-weekly streams at some point, but life has gotten in the way of that.
Damn you, life.
But if we're plugging stuff, depending on when this episode actually releases, I am thinking about maybe doing a Monster Hunter Rise or a Demon Souls remake stream on Saturday the 27th or Sunday the 28th.
Nice. Maybe I could join you with the Monster Hunter one.
All right, so I think that about covers it. Yeah, make sure to subscribe to SonOfSeebo, subscribe to CreationZilla on both YouTube and Twitch, and subscribe to Tyrant Gojira on Twitch. Tyler, do you have anything else you want to plug?
Not that I could think of.
All right, well...
make sure to go follow the podcast on Spotify as well.
Yep.
Wait, we have a Spotify?
Yep, it's
I'm like, oh,
Oh no.
wasn't I told?
Yeah, it's connected to Anchor, I think.
yeah. So it episodes release on Anchor, and then I think it takes Anchor about an hour or two to actually upload them to Spotify.
Amazing.
So it says up to 24, but when we did the first episode, it only took about 2 hours.
All right. Well, I think that's about it. We'll see whenever this uploads. We'll see you pretty shortly after because Godzilla vs. Kong is coming up, obviously, and it kind of neatly ties into another film that's next in our series, King Kong vs. Godzilla. So that'll be pretty interesting. And that will probably be an extra long podcast. Make sure to check it out.
Yeah, if you guys thought Snyder Cut was long, wait till you see next week's episode.
Oh boy.
Oh yeah. All right. And we're out.
Join us next time as we travel back to the year 1962 to witness cinema's most colossal brawl, where the mighty King Kong takes on the gigantic Godzilla. Join us next time as we travel back to the year 1962 to witness cinema's most colossal brawl, where the mighty King Kong takes on the gigantic Godzilla in King Kong vs. Godzilla. Also, hold on tight as we jump forward to the present day to watch these titans clash again for the first time in almost 60 years. That's right, we are talking about the century's biggest rematch, Godzilla vs. Kong, which releases on HBO Max and in cinemas on March 31st, 2021. We will be covering both of these monumental films on the next episode of the BroZilla podcast. Hey guys, it's Will here. Thanks again for tuning in to today's episode. I just wanted to remind you guys about the future of the BroZilla podcast real fast. After next week's episode, all future episodes will premiere on Anchor and Spotify first, and will release a week later on SonOfSeebo's YouTube channel. Thanks guys, talk to you all next week.